Hey, welcome to the JR&Skipps transfer roundup for the week. So on this week, we're going to touch up on the most recent transfer news, the completed deals, as well as the deals that we think will be completed in the next week or two. So we're going to be starting with Andre Trossard. He's joined Besiktas for 20 million euros, leaving us now. My clutch guy. To be honest, it's sad to see Trossard go. He scored the goal that led us to the Premier League trophy last year. Scored the goal against West Ham, the 1-0. So he's gone to Besiktas. I have to say Arsenal have done very well in terms of this deal because we signed Trossard for £27 million, ended up selling him for about 18 million after having about 3 years. Yeah, we actually got like a good return in terms of his performances as well as some money coming. And Arsenal is known for having poor sales in the transfer market. So, this is like an improvement in terms of how we normally run our business. So still on the Trossard deal, though, we actually signed the replacement in Christian Tzolis. He's come from Club Brugge. From what I can see, he had about 17 goals and 23 assists in last season. Those numbers are quite impressive, but then he's coming from the Belgian league. So, yeah, so, from what we're seeing from Youri, coming from Portugal, he couldn't translate those numbers. So I guess everyone is hoping Christian Tzolis can actually, have an opposite impact.
Why these stray shots at Youri, bro?
No, not really a straight shot. It's just more about the strength of the Premier League because see guys dropping crazy numbers in all these other leagues, and you come to the Premier League where it's all about physicality, and suddenly you can't perform at the same level. But from what I've seen from Tzolis, it looks like a Trossard regen. And if we can even get half of what we've gotten from Trossard from him in his first season, and just maybe he has something, to offer the Arsenal. So what are you saying on this transfer? Have you had any look at the Christian Tzolis guy?
Honestly, no comments, and I hope he flops for Arsenal, to be fair.
Oh my G,
man. Actually, the only thing I'm just happy that Trossard is gone, and I wish you got the player you wanted to get before Trossard, which was Modric for 85 million. Only God knows how your projects will have gone. But yeah. I hope this new dude is the same. He's up the same ballpark and he brings suffering and pains to us now.
Okay, well, for £34 million, I think that's good business. So let's see how it goes. I'm still talking about transfers in the mid-30s. We can see that Man U have signed Youri Tielemans for £36 million, matching his Aston Villa release clause. To be honest, I didn't even know he had a release clause. Guys have some under G scouting.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Some of these players, I think he was signed from Leicester for free, right?
Free,
so,
yeah.
So Aston Villa basically were thinking that if we get 35 million on someone that we get for free, it's
good business,
Good business. So I guess that's why he had such a low release clause, I guess.
Yeah, but at 29 though, what do you expect from Tielemans?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Speaking on the transfer, I'm not super excited. I'm not super mad about it. He's one of those Premier League proving players. It's nice to have in your team. He can still hang with the big boys, right? Given the right tools. So I'm not too mad at it for that price. Premier League proving, someone that can come in immediately. As we've lost Casemiro, is a nice addition to the squad as well.
Okay, it kind of looks like Man U are trying to re-energize the engine room because as you touched on, you lost Casemiro, you lost Ugarte to I think it's an ACL or something.
Yeah.
But you guys kind of went and signed Andre Santos, my G, and I'm like, that's not £50 million to small club Chelsea. I don't get how these guys always end up selling
well. I do think the Andre Santos, to me, I'm more excited about his transfer than Tielemans, right?
Okay.
Yeah, because I followed him a bit, from Strasbourg, or I forget the club he came from. He was actually a decent player. He didn't get much
it was Strasbourg, you're right.
Yeah, he didn't get much chances to show himself in the Chelsea midfield because they have bigger stars like Caicedo and Enzo Fernandez. So he was always top start for them. But the little I've seen from him, like you said, he brings a lot of energy to the midfield. He breaks up play. He's not the quickest, but he reads play nicely, and he looks to be a little bit tidy in possession. So he's not a bad buy. Combining him with like a Tielemans type of player, nice additions to the midfield for United, like you said.
Okay, as 50 million is quite pricey and risky, but as you said, let's see how it goes.
22-year-old dude. I mean,
what I would like to see though is it going to be playing like an 8 or as a 6? because I've seen talk about him being rated as the possible replacement for Casemiro in the Brazilian setup in that
Mm.
sixth position. So I would like to see how Michael Carrick actually utilizes him if it's
Okay.
you know,
Yeah.
central midfield or in a deep line role. But you know, the season should start in a couple weeks, so I
Yeah.
guess we're all gonna
Find
find
out.
out. Speaking about other small clubs, though, we have Tottenham trying to make some money. You know, selling Luka Vuskovic to Brighton in a £50 million deal. I haven't seen much of Vuskovic, but there's been talk about him being a really good wonder kid that had a potential to do big things. So just maybe Brighton have found a way to get another player at probably half the price of what they'll sell him in a year,
Fair
because
enough.
next
Or
thing you know,
two.
he's being
Yeah.
sold to Chelsea in £100 million deal.
Or Arsenal.
Like, nah, not us now. Okay, speaking about Arsenal though, Bruno Guimaraes has, made up his mind, said he wants to leave Newcastle and join Arsenal. It kind of looks like the problem now is the price, because
Mm.
Newcastle are talking 80 to £100 million. I
Mm.
understand there hasn't been any direct talks between Arsenal and Newcastle, but through intermediaries, Arsenal are talking about a £65 million valuation. What are you thinking about this, man? With all these Declan Rice injuries, do you think Guimaraes would be a good signing for Arsenal?
Oh, 100%. Guimaraes is going to be a decent addition to any Premier League team at this point. He's physical,
Absolutely.
he's tidy in possession, he reads the game well, and once in a while he pops in with goals, right?
Yeah.
He's not someone that I could say can be a superstar midfielder, but he pairs nicely with with technical players around him. So, and we saw that in Newcastle when he was playing with Tonali and Joe Linton in the midfield, right? So I think
Yeah.
he's going to be a decent addition to the Arsenal midfield. When they have players like Declan, Zubimendi, Eze. So I think he will be a decent addition. And to your point of Decker's missing certain amount of months due to the fact that he has not had a proper preseason and he has played through injuries at this World Cup. So it's nice to have a player that can just step in immediately and doesn't need to settle in and maintains the level in the Premier League. So yeah, but for the price, I know Newcastle might be so reluctant to sell because they've already lost Tonali in this window. I don't
Yeah.
think they want to lose another one of their henchmen. But Guimaraes is 29. He's pushing for that last big move because he knows if he doesn't move, he's 28, sorry, he's going to be 29 sometime this year.
Soon though. Soon. Yeah.
Yes, so if he doesn't get that big move now, I think he knows that this is the best time to bank on his his decent form over the past few years for Newcastle. So yeah, I think it's going to be a decent addition for us now.
I'm glad you could keep your hater heart aside and
I'm
accept
not a
that
hater, of course, of course.
Guimaraes would be a wonderful signing,
I
because
never said
look, man,
wonderful.
it's gonna be a great signing. These are
Decent
the kind.
signing.
We talked about good signings and great signings, and how great signings win you trophies. So this is a perfect example of a great signing, because if we can get him in, bro, Declan can actually have a rest head, and I can bet he's gonna hit the ground running. The valuation, though, at 28, 29, is an argument that we're buying players for now. So if you have the money, spend the money. But then I don't really see Arsenal spending 80 million on Bruno and then spending another 100 on Morgan Rogers. So let's see how the market goes. But I think, considering we've only spent about £34 million, there's probably another £200 million to be spent in this market if you
Oshie
wanna,
accountant.
if you want to retain this title, you got to go big or go home. So, talking about going big, though, there's been talk about Michael Olise being a preferred target for Real Madrid. Honestly, I haven't seen much about this in terms of the big hitters, talking about Ornstein, Fabrizio, but this has been making the rounds recently. Do you think Madrid can actually get Olise? And if they can, where exactly would he play, considering the attacking talent available in the Madrid team?
I don't think where we play would be like a big conundrum for a team like Madrid, right? I don't think they have a
Yeah.
player that is very comfortable playing in between the line and can play off the wings too. That is very, very, very tactical. I think the closest they have
Yeah.
is a Brian Diaz, and he's not on the same level as
No,
Olise.
I agree.
Yeah, but I don't think Bayern will let a player that they just signed, I think 2 years ago for such a huge amount leave. Now that he's showing a lot of promise and with his decent performances at the World Cup, it's going to be a huge coup if Madrid manage to pull that off.
Just one point on that, though. Bayern signing for £50 million. If you were to get a £150 million bid, that's triple your money. So money
Madrid
talks,
bid
man.
150 million though for
For
Olise.
Lisa, if they're
Mm.
trying to sign Julian for 100 million, well, I guess I'm an Arsenal accountant, but not really a man.
No,
So
I thought you had all the sources now.
speaking about big money signings, still, there's been talk about Bradley Bacola being a Liverpool target since they got pushed away by Yan Diomande. I do know Arsenal was interested in Bacola, but I think once the price went to the 160 million pound range, they decided to focus their interest more on Morgan Rogers. Although, honestly, I don't even have a preference at this point, apart from the fact that Rogers is a ready-made Premier League player and we know what we're
Yeah,
getting.
I was gonna say that.
So, what are you saying in terms of Bacola to Liverpool? Do you think this is the kind of player Liverpool should be going for?
Bakola, like honestly, he's a very talented young guy, but I think he's still raw, right? And if you're
Yeah.
planning to get a player like that, I don't think you should be breaking the bank for a player like that. It's one thing if they were going to get him on the low, say probably 40 to 60 million, and that you can give him a couple of years to develop. But signing a player like Bakola from PSG right now, I'm sure take nothing less than 80 to 100 million, and I don't think that's the amount you should be spending on a player on Bakola's level. But that's just me, right? He might in the next few years, he might prove me wrong and, refine the raw parts of his game. But right now, I don't think he's that player.
I was actually having a chat with someone about Bacola, about his tendency to miss chances. And then
Mm,
they referenced Usman Dembele's early days,
mm,
how, miss a lot of chances, score one, good on the dribble, fast paced. So just maybe they were looking at Bacola as a player that can mature into, a world class player once he can
mm.
have his finishing addressed. But then I
True.
guess that's the chance Liverpool will have to take if
Have
they
to
want
take,
to
yeah.
spend £100 million on Bacola. Still on the Premier League big boys, there's been talk about Newcastle trying to find the replacement for just maybe Bruno G in Lucas Bergvall. I understand there's been a £46 million bid rejected by Spurs. Honestly,
That's
I think
crazy.
Bergvall is going to leave because Spurs have signed Matias Fernandez. They've signed Sandro Tonali. And even before they made these two huge signings, there was hardly space for Bergvall in the team. And it
True.
doesn't seem like a preferred option for De Zerbi. So
Hmm.
maybe Spurs are just trying to find the highest bidder because Nottingham Forest is also interested in Bergvall and
Yeah,
probably will
Spurs is
get.
definitely trying to recoup for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. They spend a lot of money, so they want big bucks. I think that deal 50-55 and is off to Newcastle or Forest. So let's see where he ends up, eh?
Mm.
On Ederson, this deal, I thought this deal was wrapped up like a month ago before the
Yo,
World Cup.
same. Yeah.
And then when I saw the gist about it wasn't signed, it was going to be signed after the World Cup, I'm like, I thought this guy was a mind player already. So
True,
what's
true,
happening
true.
at Old Trafford, man?
Yeah, apparently we discovered something in his medical that maybe gave us some concern, but
Okay.
we didn't want to go about it in a rash way. Since he was at the World Cup, we wanted him to be done with his involvement before letting Atlanta know that Manchester United were not going to be following through on the transfer, which is sad. A player like that, it seemed like that was his dream to make to make the move to a club like United, but for some reason, I think Atlanta didn't disclose an existing medical condition, and I think United found it, and we're a little bit skeptical about that, which is why I think him going back to Atlanta now, Atlanta have actually re-signed him to a longer contract. So I think that's their signal to say they are okay with having him, but yeah, I don't think United were impressed with the results from the medical, so that's why it fell through. And to show that we were really serious about getting someone of his profile, we quickly went for Santos, which I think is kind of like the same
Santos.
profile. Yeah.
Okay, still on midfielders, there's talk about Man City being interested in signing Ayub Boadi. And honestly, I'm like, where does this end with Man City? We're still talking about the 116 charges that we've still not heard anything about. Then
Well,
you spend
we'll never hear anything about that. Don't worry.
yeah,
Just forget
bro,
about it.
and then you spent 116 on Elliot Anderson. That's basically had one great season. Nothing against Anderson, not saying he's not a good player, but when you seen him perform one good season. And now you want to spend 100 million euros on an 18-year-old that basically just had a cool World Cup and suddenly is £100 million player.
I,
Like,
I don't think that's going to materialize. I think it's one
bro.
of those flimsy transfer rumors. But if it does, man, City needs to
Yeah,
be stopped for real.
And the reason I'm taking it serious is because this is coming from David Ornstein. This is not like by the side transfer rumor. And there's
True,
talk
true, true,
about
true.
Lille willing to reduce the price to 18 million euros if they can
Damn.
have him loaned back to them for one more year. But the indication is City is even trying to go for the kill, like just bring him now. So if they can get Boadi, you already have Rodri, you have Elliot Anderson. So what kind of midfield is that, man? And is he just gonna be a £100 million bench player, or is Rodri leaving? I guess we're gonna find out. Anything you want to add to that,
I
Boadi?
think
So
they are probably just trying to get ahead of the Rodri replacement. You know, he has had
okay,
multiple ACL injuries, and yeah, while he's still playing at the highest level, I think they are starting to see that he might not be able to deal with the rigorous scheduling of playing many games during the season at that high level. So they're probably trying to get his protege in right now, whilst they can learn from him before Rodri is expired. So from a transfer point of view, it's smart, but the money they are
it's
calling on
expensive, man.
is expensive as hell, man. Like.
So let's just wrap up our transfer by talking about the latest hijack. And when we're talking hijacks, so it's been hijacking Newcastle transfers. So Johan Mazambi thought he was on his way to Newcastle. Suddenly Aston Villa pops in and he's signed
Yeah.
for about £60 million. One thing I want to say though is before the World Cup, I don't think anyone had heard about Mazambi, and suddenly he scores a couple goals for the
After the
Swiss.
World Cup, I don't think I heard about it. I'm just joking.
Yeah, well, man's going for £60 million. I'm like, really? This transfer market is really in the mud.
I think it's probably as a result of the domino effect of the Tielemans signing to United, right? I think Aston Villa would not
True.
have been willing to go that high if they did not just lose their Lynchman, and they were kind of like desperate and they needed to hijack the transfer fee, because I don't think Newcastle were bidding as high as 60, right? Newcastle were willing to
I don't think
get him
so.
for like a cool 40, I think, around that
Bro, they
range.
just jump in,
Yeah,
drop
but
big
Aston
bucks.
Villa got an extra 35 million from United and just decided to re-up on the dude. So I'm proud. I'm happy for my African brother, and I hope he shines. But yeah, who's that dude, bro?
Exactly. Okay. So that's really it on this week's JR&Skipps transfer roundup. We're back again by probably Sunday by next week, just to give you another update and catch you up on what's happening in the transfer space. So once again, thanks for catching up with us. Remember to hit the subscribe button. Please follow us on social media platforms. It's JR_Skipps on Twitter and JR_Skipps_podcast on Instagram. Tap in.
Let's go.